Hi everyone, I'm super excited to talk about this video today. This project is really special to me and close to my heart because it is the first film that I created as a filmmaker. I won a grant about 2 years ago to create an original album of music. And shameless plug, it is in conjunction with this album that I released a couple months ago through Sonderhouse Music. I did a small vinyl printing. There's a couple left as of the recording of this video. I can't say there will be when it's out, but you can check the description to purchase that if you would like to support that project. But I was approached after I composed the music by the Grant Foundation to have me do music for an art installation. And the first thing I was thinking was, I'm just gonna play some music off this album. And then I thought about it and I said, that's really easy. I want to do something hard. So I decided to make a mixed media project. And the special thing about that project is that Atom Audio, a company that I work with for years now, they sent me several speakers and we did it in a live Atmos setting. So we had speakers around this installation and people would watch the film and the sound would move around. The project, I learned so much from it. Which we're going to discuss in a little bit when we jump into the dissection of the video. But I wanted to share it because it's something that's very different than what I'm used to doing as a composer. Typically, I'm used to writing music from the perspective of what the director is looking for. And in this case, I was the director, I was the editor, I was the composer, I was everything. And there's a lot of freedom in that, but there's a lot of uncertainties and confusion and all those things. And I just wanted to showcase some of the things that I learned along the way in this process. But before we dissect the film and the score, I wanted to let you all watch the short mixed media film, A Burst of Color. I hope you enjoy. So like I mentioned in the intro, this film was really special because I was involved in the entire process. I not only wrote the music, but I directed and edited the film as well. There was a lot of interesting things that I learned. This was an extremely creative process and enlightening one. I highly recommend that every composer direct a film in some capacity because it changes your whole perspective on pacing, on story. Obviously, this doesn't have dialogue, so that's one step removed. What I wanted to showcase with this film in particular is how I went about composing the music. It's a very minimal piece, and it's broken down into kind of 3 sections. So the first section, we have this very simple little piano melody. And here's the film as well. So this is our first little part. And then we have our title card. Cool. My sister-in-law does all of my graphic design work for my albums, things like that. I got her to create this for me, and this was a nightmare to create, but essentially it's the translucent image, and from an editing perspective, I had the colors shift through it. So as we move, you notice the colors change as the film changes. Yeah, it's a fun little thing. And from a technical standpoint, the first tonicism of bass harmony as well as percussive elements enter right here at the title card, which I purposefully did. So there's this bass hit from the Minimoog. And as well, in conjunction with the bass line, there are these percussive sounds that I created that kick in here with the bass line. So this is our first kind of a section of propulsion. And the other thing that I mentioned too at the very beginning, there's this little piano line. And it's just playing octaves. And that's just a very simple little melody. Like I said, once the title card kicks in, that's where the bass and this little percussive LFO kind of sound comes in, which is from the OB6. The other thing you'll notice as well is this film progressively gets tighter and tighter. The edits get faster and faster. It's kind of like Subdivisions if you think about it from Metronome. And every cut point, there is a cut point in the colors. And if you notice here, I made the edit switch backwards. So I took the frame and I zoomed and I went backwards. Same thing with here, with this little cut point. I have a downbeat of silence, and then it comes back in on beat 2. Now, I composed the music and edited to it. I didn't score per se to this edit. I did the inverse, which is I wrote the music and then I edited to it. So some of these things, the timing things would be difficult to do from a perspective of me cutting to this. But I treated my music as the quote unquote temp track, which is what I always recommend directors, if you have a relationship with them, scoring from the script and having them edit to your music for the actual lock makes the scenes just feel so much more smooth. And this is a great example of that. So there's the downbeat is dark, it's black, no cut, and then we keep cutting here. Same thing, same idea with the bass line. So this is we have the A, this is like the second section. And now we're about to switch to the last portion. And here's where the next portion comes in. If you notice, propulsion starts to happen. And what started off that propulsion was this instrument right here. It's an OB6. It's a little drum sound that I created. And it's just a little arpeggiated drum line. Very short, snappy. The other thing that I have too is this little bass arp that comes in conjunction with this. And this was from the peak. And then we also have these little pads over top of it. And then in another video I featured this, which was the Resonant Garden, and I ended up creating all these interesting little sound design effects that are at the very beginning, and they kind of cascade through the piece, in and out, interweaving. But we're building propulsion here. And then we have this Labs sound, which is kind of like a counterpointal melody. I have the bass lines, and then I have these ARP lines here. So this little ARP texture right here begins to open up. So I have other variants of it. So that, in conjunction with the bassline ARP and the OB6 ARP kind of percussive drum thing. And then I still have these big downbeat bass lines with the Minimoog. And I have this ARP 2600 sound as well, which is similar tonally to this OB6 texture line. And so what I did there was I created these sounds and I did big glides into them. And I ran it through the spring reverb inside of it, which the synthesizer, which is ridiculously beautiful. And I also have these going through a ring modulator to kind of create those sweeps in conjunction with the glides. The other thing that I have too is the harmony. So I have the strings playing this very basic, just kind of whole long tones. Then I have unison. So from here we have a little 9. So this is E flat minor. And we have the F over the E flat, which is the 9, and then we have a suspension here going to A flat and back to the G flat. A little flat 6 there. And a flat 7 in the voicing. The 9 again. And then we're about to change to shift to a different harmony tonal center to the flat 6, which is B major. Technically C flat. D flat with the suspension. And on that last cut there, it cuts to black. So yeah, so those are all the little kind of major points. And the last part is this melody, which is the piano. So it's just stacked. This is something that I love to do. It's just sixths stacked on top of each other. So if you have, for example, C over E, and then will be D over F. So it's like 1 to the 2 to the 3. So E over G, F to A. That's like very basic voicings. Nothing wrong with that. But if you flip them, instead of doing C over E, you do E over C, F over D. It has, if you approach them from flipping them, it just has a different voicing sound. And here comes the melody. And that's the other little thing I want to show too, is there's this little percussive sound that I was sure to capture with the edit, which is this. If you see this, this is when we're triggering to, we're doing the subdivision thing that I told you about. So we're building to this point, and what kicks that off is this little bop, bop, ba-ka-ta-ta, which you'll hear right here. So it goes 3E enda, 4E enda. And when we go to that subdivision, then we shift the cuts to landing 16th notes. And the music in tandem goes with that to create this propulsion. And what I did from there was I essentially made every single frame hard, fast cuts. And then black. Back to this frame right here. And everything starts to cascade down. And the last thing we end on, yeah, it's a cool sound. Sorry. This is a lot of fun. The last thing is that little section right there. Let me remove that from there. If you notice, the melody doesn't end on the tonicism. So it ends on the flat 7. It doesn't resolve. And the voicing that I do over there is a F over D flat, which is the inversion that I showed earlier, right? So same kind of thing where I take the thirds and I flip them and makes it sixes. Yeah, right? And then I do end on the 1, but with the piano playing this bass note in the lower register of the instrument. And it's super low. And we have this kind of airy things ending it out. And the resonant garden, those textures that I had at the beginning. Yeah. Some really cool stuff here. So a lot of feedback loop things. If we listen to them in context. So that's kind of the last little parts. The very beginning of the film has those resonant garden textures, and the ending does too. And then we have a little lens flare closing. Yeah, and that's the piece. It's really short. It's right under 3 minutes. I composed this and made the film in about a week and a half, if that, maybe a week. It was very, very fast. I had an amazing time, and I learned so much in a short amount of time, and it exponentially helped my compositional approach to scoring, and especially with understanding timing and things of that nature. I did want to highlight one more thing, which is just all the instruments that I used. So I used the OB6 for creating these percussive elements. I had the OB6 play these textural lines. So kind of Juno-esque sounding. The OB6 can get some really nice Juno sounds, just kind of pads for support. I had the ARP 2600. I literally got this maybe like 2 or 3 weeks prior to scoring this, so I was really trying to figure out how to use it. And like I said, I ran, this was kind of one of the main counterpointal ideas, and I ran this through a ring modulator, just the basic ring modulator in Logic. And it was kind of this cascading little line that was one of the melodic ideas that would kind of bend in and out. And if you notice here, I also have some panning going on, which panning is king. And if you notice here, all the pannings, they all kind of coincide together. So that was one of the other things I wanted to show. I have the strings, which you already saw that, providing support. We have the piano, which I already showcased. I have this Loonsong VST from Labs. I use this in quite a few films, actually. It's a really interesting texture, and it has a lot of tonicism. There's a lot of chords stacked on top of each other. It's very hard to hear all the tonicism. But I like it because it provides just a little bit of chaos to the sound. And then I created, like I said, the bass lines were the Moog basses that I used, and these were more percussive in nature. So those were kind of like kick drums. The Labs little line here. So just a nice little supportive counter melody that's going throughout this piece. So playing some little scalar lines, and then I have, like I said, these percussive bass lines with the Peak, which is, in my opinion, one of the best synthesizers you can get for the money. The basses on it are explosive and massive. The drums are fantastic, and make your own presets as well, and save over presets they have. It's just a really beautiful synthesizer that I use so much. The Resonant Garden was kind of the hidden MVP on this project for sure, because there's all these interesting sounds, and I could make a whole video just on the sounds inside of this cue here. Yeah, there's some really fun stuff in here. And they all have their, like, just this one alone. This is like a percussive sound. I mean, that's just one of the sounds. This is another one. Here's a bowing sound. Yeah. Very atonal. Here's another bowing sound. Here's a soundscape sound. Kind of similar to the Loonsong, right? Where you have multiple tonal centers playing at once. It's just a nice added effect. Yeah, and then the other things I have are the Peak. So this is playing one of the opening little melodies, and I took this line and I reversed it. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if it's a good sign that I get excited about my own music, but yeah, I love it. It's just, there's so many little intricacies that bring me so much joy when I hear them and think, how did I make that? I don't know how I made that. And then the other sections I have these pads. This is one of the presets that I created. It's just a really nice, airy, you hear that top end in there? Now, I could shelf it out, but it adds so much top end to the piece of music. And so composing and using, which is another video in itself too, but composing and EQing things to get certain parts of the frequency spectrum really opens up a piece of music. Yeah, and then the last thing is this ARP 2600 drum sound, which is one of the main percussive elements. It kind of sounds like Mortal Kombat in a way. So yeah, like I said, this piece of music has a lot going on. It's a very simple melodic idea. The harmony is very, very simple, but there's so much going on under the hood. and I'm so excited that I got to share it with you all today. I hope this inspires you to do something creative and think outside the box and really push and challenge yourself. I learned so much from this process, and I know that you all would as well. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, this piece of music was in conjunction with the release of my first album, A Selection of Works for the Mind. I did a small vinyl run at the, like I said, when I'm at the filming of this video, there may not be any left, but you can click the link in the description below if you'd like to purchase a copy, and or you can just listen to it online. That was about 4 years of work into that album, and it's probably the best thing I've ever created. There's several videos I've done on film scoring and the film scoring process. You can check them out here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was inspiring to you, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.